Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday, and welcome to another episode of The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt. I'm a messenger with United Network News, and we are the news division of United Network. And our focus is on bringing you the real news, and we do that in a bunch of different ways. We've got our amazing field messengers that report on what's happening in their communities, and we see their stories every week. Our team produces in-depth news stories based on some of the different headlines that are out there, and we try to give you the story behind the story. We also talk about the restoration of our planet, how we're creating a brand new Earth, and we get highlights from the Global Intelligence Agency of their reports that they release each week, which is very much in depth about the struggle between good and evil that is happening here on our planet. This is information you will not hear anywhere else. Now, if you're wondering, wow, who is this group? Who are they? Where do they come from? How do they get this information? I encourage you guys to go check out our website, unitednetwork.earth. There's a lot of information up there. You can see some of our previous reports. You can become a member and get all of our content the moment that it comes out. What we're doing here in the podcast, this is a week in review. And we realize that not everyone can be a member. You're not interested in that, but the information still has to get out there. And so this is one of the ways that we do that. By the way, we also release all of our content a week later. So if you're okay with getting things, 7 days later, then you don't necessarily have to become a member. You can watch this on YouTube and Rumble. Having said that, there's still great conversations that happen through our app with our members and other things that are more exclusive. But if you're just looking for the content that we're putting out there, that is always an option, assuming they don't take it down because they don't like what we have to say. And we are shadow banned quite a bit. But this podcast is a highlight, basically. It's giving you highlights of what was discussed throughout the week. I always encourage you guys with this, take the information, do your own research, and process this on a personal level and see what rings true for you. And the reason why I said that is because we are all on a different journey here. We all have different life experiences. And I will tell you, even in doing my own research before I came to work with UNN, I would hear stuff and I was like, gosh, that just doesn't work. But maybe something else that person said did ring true with me. So I would take what made sense for me at the time and I put the other stuff to the side. And honestly, sometimes even now with the GIA reports, there's stuff that I'm like, wow, I can't quite wrap my head around that right now. Or I don't see how that works with another belief that I have, right? So some of the stuff, just put it to the side, okay? Use what rings true for you. Use that information. Do your own research. And the reason I'm really emphasizing this today, it's based on a comment that we got. Now, I don't usually look at comments, not because I don't love you guys, but just because for my own well-being, I like helping people. But as you guys know, there's a lot of comments out there that aren't helpful. And so to protect myself and my mindset, I don't usually look at comments all that much, to be honest. But this happened to come through as I was posting last week's episode. And this person, I'm not going to mention his name, but it was through Spotify because our podcast is available on Spotify. And I want to read you this comment and then I want to talk about it a little bit. And I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on this because I think it's really important. Now, this person, it actually posted in January, at the end of January. So again, I'm a little late on responding and looking comments. I usually don't look, okay? But this caught my eye and it's worth exploring. So this person says, with all due respect, this network news podcast sounds like it is a weird cult. #deception. Now, I want to bring this up because I think we're probably, not just UNN, but anyone putting out content that goes against the mainstream narrative, especially if you really start getting in the weeds, like we talk about a lot with the GIA report, I think we're going to start to see some pushback in comments like this. Now, this person that wrote this, I hope you're listening now. And I did respond, by the way. It was a very nice comment. I thanked him for listening to the episode. And I did push back on the statement, just like I'm going to say now. If you look up the term cult, and everyone has their own little definitions, right? It's usually associated with religious cults, and it's usually very restrictive. Like, for example, I was just watching on Netflix. Don't shoot me, guys. I know, Netflix. But I was watching a documentary about, I believe it was a group of Mormonism, but it was extreme Mormonism. Okay, extreme Mormons. Can't remember the name of it exactly. But it was like an expose on this group. And let me tell you what, that, my friend, is a definition of a cult. They really, I don't want to say the word protected because that makes it sound like it's a positive thing. They controlled their people so much that they couldn't read outside books. They had to wear certain patterns. They couldn't wear certain colors of the patterns of the clothes that they wore. This is mainly for the women I'm talking about. They had to wear their hair. There was like 3 different ways they could wear their hair, and they were all braids and had to be out of their face. There was absolutely no makeup. They controlled what they ate. They controlled their whole belief system. That is a cult. What we're doing here is actually the exact opposite of a cult, which is what I just said to you guys. We're giving you information. And yes, that will go against most of the information out there. So I'm not saying we're not fringe, meaning the information that we're giving is very, very different than what else is out there. But just because something is fringe doesn't make it incorrect information. It just means the other information out there is very, very different than what we say. And we get that and we acknowledge that. But that's not a cult. Okay? A cult is controlling your mind, controlling everything around you, limiting your contact with the outside world. What I say at the top of every episode is do your own research, connect, think critically, ask questions. But I do understand from the perspective of someone who is maybe just now learning, because again, we're all on our own journey here, and just now learning some of these truths that maybe other people have known for a while, it can seem a little cultish. And we have a tendency with things that we are unfamiliar and uncomfortable with in order to protect ourselves on a more of a mental level. We have a tendency to label them. Oh, that's a cult. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. It's our way of protecting ourselves and saying, well, we're not that. Okay? Or I don't have to deal with that because I've just classified that as a cult. And we do this with labels throughout our society. Oh, that person's a Democrat. They believe this. Or a liberal or a Republican, or that person's gay or bisexual. It doesn't matter. We label everything. And it is our internal way of protecting ourselves. And I want to encourage you guys, take off the labels. Because at the root, in order to rebuild our planet and do what we need to do to live in the type of world that is beautiful, that was intended for us, you can't live in a society of labels. And that includes this cult label, because that will stop you from thinking outside the box. If you're just going to label stuff, that's going to stop you and your spiritual progression. So I would encourage you guys, not that these things aren't going to pop up in our head, okay? Because we're human. And sometimes crazy things pop into our head. But when those things happen, I think this is a good learning experience. Take off the label and listen to the other person. What exactly are they saying? What rings true for you now? What doesn't make sense for you? We have to start listening to each other and not putting these labels that are breaking down conversations. So again, this is a good lesson for all of us. I hope the person that left this comment, I hope you're still listening. I hope you're still thinking, wow, well, some of the stuff they said makes sense to me now. Take that and run with it now. Do a little bit more research. Maybe the stuff will make sense at another time. But we've got to stop with the labels. We want you to be independent, critical thinkers. And that is the furthest thing from the cult, or being a cult. Okay, now I'm going to step off my soapbox here, but we're going to see this more and more, and it's not deception. Okay, we're putting it out there. What makes sense to you? If it doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. Everybody's on their own path here, and that's okay. And that's actually quite beautiful. Okay, so let's get started with the actual episode. Here is the rundown of stories you may have missed this week on UNN. Okay, let's talk about our amazing field messengers, because this is what United Network News is all about. It's about taking the power away from large media corporations that have their own narratives and about putting it back in the hands of you guys. And we do that through our field messengers. These are everyday people that care about what's happening in their community. Sometimes it's good stuff. Sometimes we're celebrating with you guys because it was a cool festival or something that happened. Sometimes it's about dangerous things that happened in your area, natural disasters, really anything that could be deemed newsworthy. And this is all about getting to know each other a little bit better too. We don't need other people to tell us what's going on in all these different places, because you and I have the ability to talk to each other. And it has never been easier than now to do that through online media. So I encourage you guys, if you haven't submitted a field messenger report yet, please do so. There's a bunch of information on our website, unitednetwork.earth. Go there. And we also have a Telegram group where you can chat about your stories, and our producers and editors will help you through the entire process. They're very committed. They're very uplifting and encouraging you guys. And yeah, anyone can do this. You don't have to have fancy equipment. We actually edit the content for you. So no excuses. So let's celebrate what our field messengers this week brought to the table, because they are so awesome. And it's all over the world. It's just beautiful. Susan out of Sweden. Susan actually submitted a couple reports. Here's the first one. Very newsy. It is updating us on gang violence in her area. So I didn't even realize this. Sweden is facing a new wave of gang violence. There's been more than 30 bombings since the start of the year. And so this is happening again in her backyard, in Susan's backyard. So she shows us some of the sites where some of these events have taken place. There's also a controversial law that is being discussed right now that would allow authorities to survey kids under, I think she said age 15, because they're starting young, right? They're trying to get them in these gangs at a young age. And if you want to squash that, the idea is, well, we need to check out what they're doing, right? But that's causing a lot of controversy. And who knows really what the answer is? I always believe the answer comes from the people, not necessarily the government. But she's, raising awareness of a very dangerous thing that's happening in her community. So, Susan, thank you for that. CJ and Justin talk about egg and dairy prices. We actually have a couple stories this week focusing on that. This is the first report, and I love it. They go to a couple different stores. I think four different stores, and they're comparing the different prices. They're looking at organic versus non-organic. They said organic seems to be more scarce. Obviously, eggs are in short supply, and the ones that you get are very expensive. So she went to a Trader Joe's store, if you guys have those, Whole Foods, a Market Basket, I think it was called. I think that's a local store, and Hannaford, which is another local store, to check this out. And then the other report is from Candace out of Missouri. Both of these are in the United States, and she goes around as well. And she talks more about, she says there were extra eggs in the local food bank. But, we're getting this excuse a lot of avian flu. And she pointed out that it's not that all of these birds are dying from avian flu. What's happening is if a bird in a group, let's just call it a flock, I'm not sure how many, but if one bird is deemed as having this, then the rule is you destroy everything. And then those are the numbers that are being reported, which kind of reminds me of COVID a little bit, right? The numbers are very much inflated because of their rules and how they're classifying things. And so her story explains that, talks a little bit more about egg prices in her area. So thank you guys for that. That's really helpful to know what's going on. Simone from Yorkshire, in the UK. She takes us to the Branch Wellness Hub, and it has overcome some economic challenges to become a key part of its community. And this was really an encouraging piece. I mean, it did showcase this new beautiful location that has a lot of healing going on. They focus on healing and helping their community that way. They had a rife machine. They actually called it a parasite zapper, which I thought was really fun. I just got done, it's ongoing, but I just did the first part of a 18-day parasite cleanse. So anything that talks about parasites, I'm really drawn to right now. And they were talking about this rife machine that is a parasite zapper. They also had some exercise machines there. They talk about training and nutrition and, just getting your body into peak health, which I'm sure is what we all want. And this piece was really more encouraging people, not just to say, hey, this is what this, one business did. We actually talked to, I believe, was the founder of that business. But you could do this in your community too. This is going to happen more and more. Smaller places are going to start to rise up. These corporations are going to fall down. And that's a beautiful thing, but it's all about seeing what other people are doing and thinking, hey, could I do something like that in my own community? Of course you can. So if something like that is of interest to you, you may want to check out this story. Maybe it'll give you some ideas. Gina out of Utah, it's another state in the U.S., shows us Tibetan bowls. Oh, I love this. What was it? Back in October, I was in Durango, Colorado, and I was part of this session. It was just so beautiful, but it combined, working the body in different ways, somewhat like massage, but more intense than that, with Tibetan bowls and, sound healing. Sound healing is one of those things that is not explored a lot. It's another fringe topic. It's almost so simple that we think that can't possibly work, but it does. One of the things that I do every day is I play 432 hertz music and I do red light therapy. I do that really for like an hour and a half every day. I know that's like a lot of time, but it's part of sunny time that I take for myself because I understand the importance of sound therapy and I so appreciate Tibetan bowls. So in this story, they just show us some of the things they do. Of course, they're playing some of the bowls and they talk about how healing happens based on the shape of the bowl and how the bowl can be placed on certain parts of the body. Honestly, it made me want to get some Tibetan bowls. I don't even know where you get them. I don't think this is one of these things you order on Amazon, but I love it. I love it. And we'll be doing a lot more stories about sound therapy because, again, it's something that's so powerful. This is all frequency, guys. So powerful and so simple in a very beautiful way. Okay, Pina and Dawn out of Ontario, Canada, they talk about the urban abbey. So there was a beautiful church in their area that was no longer active, and a group of compassionate people came together to basically give it life again. And they do a lot of cool things there. They feed people. I think they said between 35 to 40 people are fed there per day. It's a 10-bed homeless shelter specifically for women, which is beautiful. They also have a community space there that can seat 300 people or more. So again, giving back to the community, finding a place where people can come together for various things and just celebrate life. I love it. Susan out of Sweden again. Here's Susan again. I love it. Susan has a story about making probiotic yogurt. Now, this is it seems pretty intense to me compared to just going to the store, I guess, and getting yogurt. But this is very interesting. So she talks about using these patented bacterial strains because trust me, and sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to the choir with these episodes because you guys know the stuff you get in the store with yogurt is just sugar. That's all it is, pretty much. Anything that's really good for you, you're probably going to have to make it home. and it's going to be a little bit more labor intensive. I've talked to you guys before, and I swear I'm going to do a field messenger report on how I make kefir, because I have kefir pretty much every day, and kefir is like yogurt on steroids. It's got so many amazing probiotics in it. But I love what Susan showed us here. She had a different way of doing it, and if you want to check that out and maybe make your own yogurt at home. It's based, by the way, on Dr. William Davis's book. I can't remember the name of it. That's in the story too. So if you want to learn a little bit more about it, that's a good resource for you. All right, CJ and Justin are back. Again, they are from New Hampshire doing another story. This time they are making black bean brownies. So if you don't want to use flour, if that's, you want to have something that's more gluten-free, this is a healthier twist on classic brownies. Very simple ingredients, but they swap out the flour and instead they use black beans. And they show us how they make it, and it looked amazing. Heather out of Utah, again, another state in the U.S., talks us through... She really shows us. She shows us how to make homemade dog food. This is something that has been on my list for a while. I think we should do a story. I need to write it down. I think we need to do a story on what's in our pet food, because it is not good, guys. The stuff you get from the store. And by the way, it's extremely expensive. And they have all these beautiful pictures on the bag of meat and vegetables that are in it. And I'm like, that is not what's in it. But you can make this at home. And I'm kind of on the edge right now between getting another 50-pound bag of this crap stuff that my dog doesn't even like. I have a golden doodle. She's about 4 years old now. She doesn't even like this stuff. I don't even know why we buy it. And making our own. Because I think that, the ingredients that Heather put together, I think it's like 4 or 5 ingredients. She throws some extra nutrients in there, and then she freezes part of it. I interviewed a veterinarian not too long ago, Dr. Jeff. You guys may remember him. And he talked about, because I was like, I don't feel like the food that we eat should be that different than what other animals eat. That's good for all of us. If it's good for us, why can't we share? Why can't this be a more communal experience? Because I'm one of those people that loves to feed my dog whatever I'm eating, because she's there and she's whining and she wants some. And I love my dog, and I want to feed my dog what I'm eating. And he said, in most cases, yes, there's a few things, that they can't quite process their stomachs. But if we are eating what we should be eating, whole foods, natural foods, then yes, we should be able to take a bite of it and give it to our dog. And for me, that was very eye-opening. So I love Heather's recipe. Again, I'm on the verge of trying it. I'm not quite there yet, but such a cool idea. Okay, let's talk about some of the news stories that the team and I were working on for you guys this week. The first story is about LED lights. LED lights have become ubiquitous. It's marketed as energy efficient and environmentally friendly, but they come with some hidden risks. While they do save energy technically and last longer in the right conditions, LED lights emit blue-toned light, which can disrupt sleep patterns, potentially worsening mental health issues like depression and anxiety, and they can also increase cancer risks. Additionally, their production and disposal contributes to environmental damage, as LEDs contain harmful substances like lead and arsenic. Now, the rise in LED usage has also increased light pollution, which harms wildlife and ecosystems. As governments push for their widespread adoption, in fact, it's hard to find regular light bulbs, at least in the U.S. nowadays, it's essential to be aware of these drawbacks and make informed choices to mitigate their negative effects. Have you heard about prairie strips? This is related to soil erosion. It's a way to help prevent soil erosion because that erosion is becoming a growing issue. It impacts farming, water quality, and ecosystems. It's often worsened by deforestation, farming practices, and extreme weather. Well, these are prairie strips. It's really helpful if you actually see the video, but you guys can look this up. Prairie strips, they are narrow rows of native plants, and they are planted in crop fields. And this is emerging as a promising solution for soil erosion. These strips help reduce the The soil erosion, it improves water retention and supports biodiversity by providing habitats for pollinators and birds. Here's a clip from a news story that featured prairie strips and some of the benefits.
In Iowa's fertile fields, surprising bursts of color. Prairie flowers and grasses, deliberately grown in what are called prairie strips.
It's therapeutic.
Paul Muggy put one in his wheat field.
This is what Iowa used to look like.
Yeah, all of Iowa. And there's less than 1% of the land that's left in prairie.
20 years ago, Iowa State's Lisa Schulte Moore started planting this idea with farmers to improve the land.
Farmers thought, that's an interesting idea, but no, thank you.
How hard was it to convince them to do this?
What we had to do to begin to convince them is show them the data.
Her data shows converting 10% of a field to prairie strips can reduce soil erosion by 95% and fertilizer runoff as much as 90%.
Studies show converting just 10% of fields into prairie strips can make a significant environmental impact, enhancing soil health and carbon storage. Additionally, government incentives are making it easier for farmers to adopt this practice, ensuring long-term sustainability in agriculture. So if you're interested in that, you can look it up. If you guys got a lot of land, something definitely to look into. Migrant trafficking. So this is a big one, right? Migrant smuggling, human trafficking. These are serious global issues that trap vulnerable individuals in dangerous and exploitative situations. Many migrants seeking safety or better opportunities fall victims to traffickers who exploit them for forced labor, sexual exploitation, or even organ harvesting. Here's a little bit more on this issue.
Almost 1 million people have been trafficked across the Mediterranean Sea to Europe in 2015 alone, while an estimated 25,000 people have disappeared or died in the last decade after their vessels sank somewhere between Africa and Europe. As EU nations struggle to cope with a historic wave of migration via perilous land and sea routes, the ruthless trafficking of human cargo across the Mediterranean risks turning these crystalline waters, once the playground for the rich and famous, into a cemetery at sea.
Of course, migrant trafficking is happening around the world. Smuggling routes, especially from Africa to Europe and South America to North America, generate billions of dollars annually. Migrants, especially in places like Libya, face life-threatening conditions with weak governance, allowing trafficking networks to thrive. A 2025 report highlights the exploitation of sub-Saharan African migrants in Tunisia and Libya, with accusations that EU funds intended to curb migration may have been misused. To combat these crimes, addressing the root causes of migration and protecting victims is essential. Spontaneous healing, or spontaneous remission, is when the body recovers from illness without external medical intervention. While this topic is not fully understood, factors like the mind-body connection, the placebo effect, and a strong immune system play significant roles in these unexpected recoveries. Conditions such as cancer, autoimmune diseases, and chronic pain have shown improvement through this phenomenon.
There's a psychiatrist at Harvard, Dr. Jeff Rediger, who, by the way, you might want to talk to sometime. Mm-hmm. He's written a book called Cured, the science of spontaneous healing. He studied people, just as I have, who got better despite giving terminal diagnosis after the failure of medical treatment, or even if they refused medical treatment. Dr. Kelly Turner, is an oncological psychologist who worked with cancer patients. And she also did a study of people who are spontaneously better. But when I talk to these people, or when Kelly Turner or Jeff Rediger talks to these people, there's nothing spontaneous about their healing. They all did something. And the biggest thing they did is they developed a different relationship to themselves.
Experts like Dr. Jeffrey Rediger and Dr. Kelly Turner emphasize that lifestyle changes such as a better diet, emotional management, and spirituality can contribute to healing. Additionally, spirituality is linked to improved health outcomes such as lower rates of heart disease and cancer. Healing, they argue, is a holistic journey involving physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Ship abandonment is a growing global issue driven by weak regulations and irresponsible ship owners who often exploit flags of convenience to avoid responsibility. Many of these abandoned ships are poorly maintained and left adrift in busy shipping lanes, posing safety risks. And if you're wondering, why aren't these recycled? Well, sometimes the countries won't allow that to happen because it's too much trouble. Take a listen.
When ships are decommissioned, they're not sold for scrap metal or dragged ashore. Do you know why? Many people are puzzled by this, as these ships often sit idle in the sea for years rather than being sold at a low price. First, towing a ship ashore is a significant expense that often exceeds its value. Second, dismantling and recycling a ship is a high-risk job. Workers constantly face deadly dangers from toxic materials, metal contamination, and structural collapses. Many countries have strictly prohibited the shipbreaking industry. Currently, only India and Bangladesh, with their cheap labor forces, handle 90% of the world's shipbreaking work. Dismantling a giant ship requires dozens or even hundreds of workers and can take months or even years. The parts removed are often too numerous to fit on the docks. As a result, many countries prefer to sink the ships to the ocean floor, turning them into artificial reefs.
Yeah, there's nothing natural about that. The abandonment of ships also leaves thousands of seafarers stranded without pay, food, water, or medical supplies, creating a dire humanitarian crisis. Despite international labor treaties aimed at protecting seafarers, enforcement remains weak, with many flag states failing to uphold their responsibilities. To tackle this problem, stronger regulations, better enforcement, and accountability are needed to prevent these abuses and protect both workers and marine environments. The rise of transfarmation, not transformation, transfarmation is a growing movement where farmers are shifting from livestock to plant-based crops driven by environmental concerns, consumer demand for plant-based foods, and the challenges of, quote-unquote, factory farming. Now, factory farms, which prioritize efficiency over animal welfare and environmental sustainability, have made it difficult for small independent farmers to compete, especially with exploitative contract farming systems. Here's a little bit more about these factory farms.
Factory farms are very different from small family farms. The term factory farm or corporate farm refers to large-scale agricultural production centers, also known as concentrated animal feeding operations. The profit-driven production methods of factory farming often lead to excessive waste and animal cruelty. Factory farms contribute to air and water pollution, according to a study published by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Factory farms are responsible for 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions annually.
In response, many farmers are now embracing new techniques to grow crops like peas, mushrooms, and oats, aiming to create more sustainable, profitable farms. Programs like the Transfarmation Project offer crucial support to help farmers transition, providing training and financial guidance. This shift not only supports healthier, more sustainable farming practices, but it also aligns with the increasing demand for plant-based products, making it a win-win for both farmers and the planet. E-waste, or sometimes it's called electronic waste, is a growing environmental issue as outdated gadgets pile up faster than they can be recycled. Despite the potential for recycling to recover valuable materials like gold, silver, and copper, only a small percentage of electronics are properly recycled due to challenges such as mixed metals, materials, hazardous components, and improper disposal methods.
It may be more convenient to just toss out those end-of-life electronics with the trash, but it's convenience that got us here. Planned obsolescence is a common business strategy with electronics, where products are intentionally designed to break or become out of date within a set amount of time. like when you update your phone only to notice a slower operating speed. This entices consumers to upgrade their device and in turn produce more e-waste. Plus, all e-waste has something of value, like metal or circuit boards, and they may also contain toxic materials that when dumped in a landfill pollute the environment.
The improper handling of e-waste, especially in low-income countries, can lead to severe health and environmental risks. While regulations are improving, many countries, including the United States, still lack comprehensive federal laws. By recycling responsibly, supporting certified recyclers, and donating working devices, that's key, individuals can help reduce the environmental impact of e-waste and promote more sustainable practices. Okay, let's talk about Nestle, not just the company that makes the chocolate syrup that you may not have in your fridge. Nestle is the world's largest food and beverage company, and they have been embroiled in multiple controversies, including a recent scandal in which it used banned water treatment methods to, quote-unquote, purify its bottled water brands like Perrier and Vittel. Despite being fined 2 million euros for failing to comply with French regulations, the company faced further scrutiny for allegedly pressuring the French government to approve these non-compliant methods, which makes you wonder, what is really in this water they're selling us? Where is it coming from, and why are we buying it?
Nestle is stealing your water and selling it back to you for a profit. Well, here's what's going on. Picture this. You get a bottle of water called Pure Life. The name alone makes you think of crisp mountain springs and untouched glaciers, right?
Nestle Pure Life, 100% spring water.
That's the illusion Nestle wants you to believe. Here's the reality. Nestle often sources water straight from public streams, springs, and aquifers, paying next to nothing. Then they package it up, slap a premium label on it, and sell it back to you for $2 a bottle. And here's where it gets dark. In Flint, Michigan, during a water crisis, Nestle pumped 200 gallons a minute, paying just $200 a year for the privilege. It was a struggling state, and they profited on water. In California, a state constantly battling droughts, Nestle's been accused of illegally siphoning water from protected forests. And the communities left behind, they're often struggling with depleted water supplies, trying to scrape together enough to drink. You think this was just a U.S. issue, but no, it's global. In countries like Pakistan and Brazil, Nestle has faced intense backlash for exploiting local water sources, leaving people high and dry. So the next time you grab that plastic bottle of water off the shelf, think about where it might be coming from.
Now, this is not the first time Nestle has been criticized, with past scandals ranging from unethical baby food marketing practices in the 1970s to being sued for child labor in its cocoa supply chain. The company's history of prioritizing profits over ethics and health raises some big concerns about its influence on government policies and its commitment to environmental and social responsibility. And our final story is about drink spiking and an attempt in California to rectify this a little bit. So spiking drinks, that is a growing concern with substances that there's like a top 3 of these substances, GHB and ketamine being 2 of them, being used to target unsuspecting individuals. And it often leads to serious sexual assault cases. So to combat this, there are bars and restaurants, particularly in California, where I am. They are now providing drug testing kits, and they're putting up signs to alert customers about their availability. So here's a little bit more about these efforts.
Would you feel safer if a bar you were patronizing gave you a roofie test strip so you could test your drink if you were feeling uneasy? If you answered yes, then you should be really excited, especially if you live in California. So there was a bill passed called AB 1013, and a bar owner in Long Beach, who's also an assemblyman, was able to pass the bill. And now every bar by July 1st who carries a license 48, so that's anyone who has a nightclub or a bar that has alcohol without food, they have to carry roofie or benzodiazepine test strips either for sale or that they're giving their customers. Josh, who created the bill and got it passed, actually said, "This is great that we got the governor to sign the bill, but I'll only feel happy when we know we're making an impact on cutting down sexual assault. That's it. That's the only measuring stick here."
While this initiative is being implemented in some states and countries like the UK, which is also introducing laws to specifically criminalize drink spiking, it's clear that more work needs to be done. Alongside these efforts, creative solutions like the nightcap, you can actually look this up online. It was developed by a woman who was concerned about drink spiking. It's actually a hair scrunchie that doubles as a drink cover. Again, look it up. It's a real thing. But these are innovative solutions that you, the people, are coming up with. We don't need the government necessarily to tell us, we're going to pass this law. It's going to help you. No, we can come up with things on our own. And that's just one example. These are helping to raise awareness and encourage self-protection. All right, here are some updates from the Global Intelligence Agency. Kim Gogan heads up this agency, and she comes on a few times a week to give us these reports. Now, she wasn't available on Monday, but she released a statement. This was on our Telegram group. So if you guys aren't part of that yet, you can join that and get these updates as they come out. So this was actually posted, I believe, from Mike, one of our producers. He says, Kim is still busy dealing with the after effects of several ceremonies this past weekend and lots of movement in various government departments around the world. Some ultimatums were issued. We will not see if there was any follow through on these until Wednesday, USA time, where you're being cautious not to expose any ongoing operations and negotiations. There will be a full report on Wednesday. Okay, so that's what came out on Monday, which makes you wonder, well, what's going on with these ceremonies? Okay, so this is where, if you're not familiar with UNN, I feel like I have to put a little bit of a disclaimer on this, considering the comment that we received through Spotify. This gets a little out there if you're not familiar with how our planet is actually run, okay? Because there is information that's put out there for the general public because they think you guys are stupid and that you're sheep. And for a long time, we just kind of went along with this, myself included. But more and more people are realizing, because things have gotten so crazy, and there are spiritual things that have happened as well to allow us to see the truth more easily. But there are, there's things they put out to the public, and then there's the truth of what's happening behind the scenes. So for some of you, disclaimer, this is going to seem really out there. If this is not for you, put it aside. It will make sense later because their whole house of cards is falling apart right now. So let's talk about some of these ceremonies. If you want to talk about cults, okay, the deep state is one giant cult, okay? And what they do is insane. And if you haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet, it is a dark and very deep rabbit hole. But we're just going to touch base on some of this today because I hesitate sometimes. I know Kim does too. Like giving us like the play-by-play of what the deep state is doing is sometimes just annoying because none of their stuff ever works and it's insane what they do. But on some level, we have to be familiar and understand what's happening in our world. So there was a lot of stuff that Kim talked about on Wednesday. I'm only going to give you a couple sound bites. So it's kind of like highlights, right? And so this first one I want to tell you about is how time actually stood still this week, not here on our planet. And if you depending on your resources, there are a lot of religious texts out there that talk about the end of time. That's a little bit of a misnomer that is sometimes misunderstood because it's not that everything is going to end, but literally the end of time, which time for us results in death and destruction, that's not a good thing, right? So you do want the end of time. It doesn't mean that everything is going to fall apart and we're all going to die. I know the deep state would like that, but that is not what's happening here. But we've talked about in the past how time was going in a certain direction, and that was the way of death, okay? You get older, you die, you get these diseases, all this crazy stuff they've been doing to us. Well, if you reverse time in a way, okay? I'm not saying we're going back in time, okay? This is not like a Michael J. Fox movie. But if you reverse that, the reversal of death is love, okay? And that is what the creator of the universe is all about, love. So this is one of the things that had to happen in order for the entire universe and collection of universes out there to actually operate in the way that the creator wanted things to operate. This is a very, very important step in us getting back on track. So imagine this. You've got some sort of a clock and it's going in one direction. Now, if you want to reverse it, it's going to stop for a portion of time, no pun intended, and then it's going to start going in the opposite direction. And that's what I mean by time actually stood still this week. Now, the deep state understands some stuff in order to be destructive and harm themselves and potentially harm other people, but they don't understand the why behind all of this. So they knew time was going to stand still this week, and they thought that that was in their favor. They thought there would be different places on the earth where they could benefit from this, because they thought if time could stand still, then they could reverse time in a physical sense and take back ownership of this planet. That did not work out in their favor. So I want to play this soundbite of a crazy ceremony that they did. Again, if this seems too out there for you, just remember it and put it aside for another time. But it's important to know the lengths that these people will go through. They have a very 3D mindset, and everything is about this planet and physicality. They have a hard time understanding things beyond that. But this is their reaction to, oh, time is going to stand still. Let's do a crazy dark ceremony in order to take advantage of that. So here's Kim explaining one of the many things she had to address this past weekend in order to combat the deep state's efforts.
So the 28th was Friday. So the 1st of March was on Saturday. On Friday, there was a planetary alignment. And you know how they love their alignments. And they really thought for some reason, because this alignment, and there was a few little other caveats they believed in that were happening as far as other things that were aligning on this day. And they somehow thought that Marduk would return, or the Draco would return, or somebody was going to return. And they would actually have the capability of turning back time, or going back to a dark timeline or a dark age. And, you know, of course, they had someone at the ready for this being, whoever they thought was coming, to crawl into someone's body. Seems to be the thing that they're hoping for the most. You know, they'd like an AI or anything to crawl into some person somewhere to, you know, give them a little help, give them a boost. So we started out Saturday with a bunch of Trump operatives, some military people, I think, probably from global headquarters, and a fake Trump, a Trump doppelganger, over in the far east of Russia. Now, if you remember a few reports ago, I think it's been about a month or two, I talked about the Diomedes Islands over right between Russia and Alaska. Now, not too far from there is an area called the Kolyma gold mine, which was a former gulag in Russia. It's way in the far northeast of Russia. It has terrible temperatures, not fit for humans to live. A lot of people died there. Millions of people died. Rumor has it that only one person ever escaped, which was from the area today known as Ukraine. And this gulag ran for several decades, and it was basically a death sentence. They brought these prisoners there to mine gold. There was a lot of gold in that region. But there was a lot of other stuff in that region too. And some of the things that were in that region, in that particular area, you know, they love a good massacre site, or at least Marduk did, or others did, I should say. And they were always putting all kinds of space junk that would be utilized to generate dark energy based on the fact that a lot of people died. This camp here was pretty brutal, not only because of the temperatures, the working conditions, food supplies, location, but also because there was a lot of human experimentation done there too. So prime location for Marduk to put in some dark space junk. So apparently the Trump operatives have talked a big game to fake Trump a fake Trump. And they told him that he's the chosen one. You know, he's just like Trump. He's in line to be the next, I don't know, king of the world. Who knows what they told him. But anyway, he's kind of bought into it, or did buy into it. And they brought him and themselves, and they, ran around with some crystals and doing some really strange things. And then they sat him into this thing that almost looks like kind of like a coffin. And they believed that during this time, at this time of the sunrise and local time there, which would have been around 6:44 a.m. in the far east of Russia, that time would stand still. And during this time of time standing still, they felt that there was a possibility that time could be reversed. And of course, their alien friends were going to help them do that. And they also thought that there would be a being that would come down to this box that they put this fake Trump into in order to inhabit his body. And so then he would become the new Marduk or new something. Realistically, that would be a no. But this particular box was made out of a specific metamaterial, and they've moved it around a few times and tried this before. But they thought this was really it. But it's designed to kind of protect you. It's from time-space continuum openings, essentially. So if you are not the correct person, meaning your DNA is not correct, and there's a number of other factors, you will be unable to take your physical vessel through a time-space continuum. So they felt there was going to be a place here in the world, in this particular location, where this time-space continuum was going to open and all was going to be right with the world because time was going to stand still for a short period of time. See, they would really like to find a being somewhere that can counteract all that we do. They need someone strong, and they felt that if they put this guy in a box, it's kind of funny, really, when you think about it. I have to laugh. And that all would be right with the world, at least their world, and that we could go back to a dark age and life would go on as usual for these people. Now, this was their big plan. For those of you operatives, bank officials, and everyone else that was waiting for money on Friday, this was their big plan behind the scenes in order to pay all of you people. They felt that this would give them access to some AI somewhere, that this would help them become, I don't know, be all you can be. I mean, I'm laughing about this a little bit because honestly, it's been... yeah. Okay. So during the ceremony, time did not stand still in this particular location. Time did stand still for about an hour, far, far away from here. Now, unfortunately, no one made it out of there alive. Box or no box.
Okay, again, that's a soundbite taken from Wednesday's report. She does give specific examples of other ceremonies that took place, but again, I'm just trying to give you some highlights here. If you want to go back and understand the deep state a little bit better, you can go back and listen to that report. But I also want to play a soundbite again from Wednesday about the clearing of the grids. And we have talked about this a lot. Our body was set up on a grid system. Our planet was set up on a grid system. So if you're trying to control a group of people, then you control the grids. And this can impact you physically, mentally, and emotionally. So if you have felt disturbances, and I'm going to be the first person to raise my hand and say, whoa, in our house, we have had some major physical issues, and I'm sure mental and, physical as well, or mental and emotional as well. But sometimes, you don't talk about those things. But it's obvious to see if someone's got a physical issue, right? That's been going on, I can tell you, definitely with us and probably for a lot of you guys out there as well. So what's really going on with the grids? Because right now, Kim and her team are trying to clear the grids to remove this control. So here's Kim explaining the grid system and what's going on.
part of the process that we're going through right now is clearing of what's called the grids. And Earth had many, 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 many grids attached to it. And most of those grids were attached to other worlds, other AIs. Remember, Earth being the original only keystone left. So everything that was going to be created as a part of not natural creation, such as AI systems that were dark or other worlds that were dark, were definitely attached to a grid here on Earth and oftentimes attached to your person. So if you are very sensitive, you probably have had a really rough time of it for the last few weeks, off and on. Reports are coming in of people being dizzy, feeling like they're coming down with a cold, neurological disturbances, tired for no reason, feeling like someone just pulled your plug and, all of a sudden you feel like you need to take a nap in the middle of the day. People are also reporting other physical illnesses being amplified for a short time and then going away and then coming back and then going away. So honestly, this is part of removing the grids. It can be quite uncomfortable because you are powering a lot more than we ever thought that we were here on Earth as human beings. Also, Earth was being drained in many, many ways. We've talked often about the fact that, we were only getting somewhere around 21% of our energy supply needed to keep us alive. Well, the rest of it was going to power universes, believe it or not. Again, human beings don't realize how powerful they are and why every race that is, let's just say, means us harm uses us to power things often. So the removal of grids can be uncomfortable. Now, to some degree, the secret space program operatives are aware of these grids, very well aware of the grids. And they try to use these grids in many ways with limited knowledge and limited access. So before, when they had more access to grids like this, they would be able to, well, let's just say they would have very clear orders on what they needed to do. Therefore, balance was maintained and the intended disturbance was sometimes it's no disturbance. There's no disturbance to what they're doing because it's just meant to fire up a grid at a certain time, and then the others would take it from there that are in other worlds and other locations, such as the Neither world. In this particular case, they tried to do a lot of things and have been trying to do a lot of things with limited access to these grids, which has been causing you physical disturbances, mental disturbances, emotional disturbances, and it can be because they don't know what they're doing, and they may or may not realize or just don't care that these grids are attached to humans. They don't realize that there is a regulation and a maximum and a frequency, and keeping the balance was always important because you got to keep us alive. So this has been the issue for many, many people. But, it's also part of grid removal because when we remove one, they go looking for another one to attach themselves to, and away we go again. And it has been off and on now for several days, probably more than a couple of weeks now, and removing of the grids and their associated worlds so that we don't have this problem anymore. I got to tell you, these people must be breeding behind closed doors, or maybe there's a cloning facility we haven't found, because there is no shortage of ridiculous people on their side.
And the ridiculousness continued with Friday's report. Kim gave us some updates on things that you're seeing in the news right now, specifically with the U.S. presidency, some things that Trump whoever's playing Trump right now, whatever that is saying, such as we're suspending aid to South Africa due to white racism. What in the world is going on there? So Kim talked a little bit more about that. She talks about a deal that was actually cut behind the scenes between Zelensky and Vance. She just touches on that very briefly, because what these people do, they're making these deals, and it doesn't matter if you don't have money, which we've said a million times. All these governments are broke. No new money is coming into the system to do their nefarious plans, or, whatever plans were handed down to them that they feel that they have to fulfill in order to get some dark demon being to crawl up into them and help them out, okay? So they're kind of going through the motions of carrying out plans that were handed down from a long time ago, thinking that their buddies are going to come back and save them, which is not going to happen, including the talks right now about they're trying to create this kind of Cold War, at least in the eyes of the public, between the U.S. and Russia. They are negotiating territories and things like that. So you're going to start to see all of this, if you haven't already, in the news. And Kim does a little bit of explaining about what's going on behind the scenes with that. I'm not going to play those sound bites, but if you want to check that out, that's on Friday's report. She also talks a little bit about sanctions, because you're seeing that in the news as well, and how they work and what governments have the ability to do and what they can't do. Because a lot of this stuff in the headlines, they don't really have the ability to do, or it's not as intense as they make it out to be, right? So that's important to check out as well. I'm going to play 2 more sound bites for you guys. The first one is about another announcement, I guess you could say, that Trump made. We're calling him the crypto president, crypto meaning dead. So that applies in so many different ways. If you guys didn't know, crypto means dead. So cryptocurrency is dead money. Dead currency. I don't know why anyone would want dead money from a dead president, but there you go. So the crypto president has formed this strategic reserve at the Treasury Department. This is a headline that came out this week. So what in the world is going on? Are the are the crypto companies buying into this? And what was the result? Because there was an actual meeting, I believe it was in Washington, at the White House. So here's Kim explaining the meaning behind this headline that you're seeing now.
The crypto president. Let's go back to crypto here for a minute. So the crypto president allegedly signs or unveils the idea that they are going to form a strategic reserve, crypto strategic reserve. It's going to be held at the Treasury Department. This is what's coming out in the news. Now, behind the scenes, there were meetings between some large crypto platforms in the White House yesterday. The conversation kind of went like this. So they would like to pool together all of their platforms and their platform assets, which means this would almost be like a bank having custody over your money when you have it on deposit. In this particular case, it's the large crypto platforms, that hold all kinds of crypto, and where you have your crypto wallet, where you would open a crypto wallet type place. If you're not into crypto, that's what a crypto platform is. So they pulled in the biggest crypto platforms and started talking to them about new systems, new quantum systems they're going to launch, and all of these things, and they're going to hook all of these crypto platforms up to it, and they're going to utilize the custody of all of your wallet accounts within the crypto as assets of the Treasury. They also claim that they are going to back the crypto with assets of the United States government, except the United States government doesn't have any assets. Nope. Don't know, maybe they're going to get some. Because that was a question that the crypto platform owners, also known as associates of the NSA, this is where it gets funny. So associates of the NSA, they all said, okay, well, that sounds great. Where is this new system and can we get access to it? We'd like to hook up our platforms to it. And they claimed it was their system. Whoever's running Mr. Orange these days claimed it was their system, so they should be able to get access to it. And he said, well, it's not ready yet. And they said, no. We understand it's not ready yet, but it's got to be already up and running if you're planning on doing this now. There has to be something. Maybe it's not finished, but we should probably start integrating now. Well, it's not ready yet. Well, what's the name of this new system? To which Mr. Orange says, well, it's the Golden Age AI. And they said, what? Now remember, and all crypto was created by the NSA. You're sitting there looking in the face of NSA people who very well know what the Golden Age AI is, and they know for sure that they don't have access to it. So they said, well, if you don't have any access to it, then how are we going to put forward all our platforms? And then again, why would we put forward our platforms to the U.S. government and the U.S. Treasury if we're running just fine all on our own over here? We don't have the platforms, and they admitted that that blockchain could not facilitate the type of transactions that they're talking about doing with the U.S. Treasury. So there was a little bit of a back and forth and that type of thing, and everybody said they would get back to everybody, but there was one aide that pulled them aside, and they had an off-premises meeting in which he told them that Golden Age AI is not theirs. They are about 5 to 10 years away currently at this moment from building a collective group of data centers, which are going to cost approximately $8 billion around the United States, that could possibly host larger amounts of transactions. Now, it's not going to hold worldwide transactions, but larger amounts of transactions. And even that is 5 to 10 years away. So the guy basically told them that this is probably a pipe dream, that there is no access to the system, and that he actually told them that it belonged to me, that I run it. And they said, well, we really want to do this. Would she be willing to do this? And he goes, I promise you, she knows nothing about this. And that was kind of the end of that conversation. So am I in support of anything these people are doing? No. Am I planning on starting tomorrow? No. I have no interest whatsoever in supporting the Treasury or crypto anything or any kind of such scam.
Now, I know that is a tough pill to swallow. If you have not heard our reports before and you are an advocate or you have wallets in these various cryptocurrencies, but that is 100% true. It is a huge scam. Now, I understand that people are making money off this. We have some friends of ours that bought crypto and sold it, earned a profit. But ultimately, this is one giant scam to get your money, okay? I'm not saying people aren't making some money from it, but it is a very dangerous place to be. And it is something that we certainly don't advocate for because somebody's going to get hurt. Someone's going to lose a lot of money doing this. And it just depends on when they're going to pull the plug and how they're going to do this. Now, I'm not surprised that they're trying to put more effort into this because the deep state, meaning the Trump operatives, because yes, Trump is part of the deep state. Sorry, guys, that is the truth. Because they've tried to launch every other new currency they could and have failed at every turn. So it appears to me that they are now turning to something that already exists, even though, like you heard in the soundbite, it could never be a worldwide currency. These cryptocurrencies, they can't function like that. They don't have the support system. Blockchain simply cannot support that. And they have tried to launch many other currencies in an attempt to control and add new money to the system. Because like I said, no new money is coming in. So in their mind, create a new currency, and they haven't been able to do that. So now it looks like, crypto president here is trying to work with companies that already exist. And that's probably not going to go very far either because as you heard, there's no system. They don't have access to the Golden Age AI system. So what are you going to run it on? These people really don't think ahead. The last soundbite that I want to play for you guys, because I want to end this on a high note, because talking about the deep state is like, wah, 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 is a continuation about time standing still. Because Kim started to talk about it on Wednesday, but I felt like she brought it full circle on Friday. This is now 7 days after time stood still. It actually stood still, not here on earth, but in the heavens. So I want to talk about that. And then this is a short soundbite. And then she's going to just talk a little bit about what that means for us.
As time goes away, meaning time, remember, time is the flow of the universe. It is what makes all of the matter and quarks and preons move. It is the currency, or the controller of the currency of the universe, and has been for a long, long time. Reversing that currency out, and let's just say, is a process. And it has been a process over the last few days for us, because this has been the main focus. So the process of reversing out the flow into the flow of what you would call love, or the light of the omnipotent source, velocity of energy going in an opposite direction at time, because one is negative and causes mortality and death, and that would be time. As time passes, they say you get older. Reversing that out to the love sequence, universally speaking, in the omniverse speaking, is what actually caused things to stand still for a brief moment, as it was the end of times. Not the biblical version, but it was the end of time. And for the last few days, we have been bouncing back and forth as the new flow adjusts itself in the opposite direction. So, yeah, I can say that it's been a little topsy-turvy. There were a few things that were left, not trumpet-worthy, but there were a few things that were left that kind of got us stuck in this little push and pull for a while, that I would say caused a little bit of disturbances, not terribly here. Things actually went quite smoothly as it relates to here in Earth. And pretty much by the end of the day today, we were kind of out of the woods as far as things starting to move in the opposite direction, which is what we want. We want to fully have the flow of source and not have any kind of disruptions or interruptions.
That sounds amazing to me. So, ending it on a high note. I love it. Thank you guys for listening. If you want more information about who we are at United Network News, visit our website, unitednetwork.earth. Again, we would love for you to become field messengers. If you've never submitted a report before, you've been thinking about it, we've got an entire support team to help you through that process. And if you want to become a member and get access to all the content as we put it out there, you can do that through the website. That gives you all of our news updates, New Earth interviews, and we've been meeting this week and creating this awesome show for you guys. We're going to launch a whole show just about the New Earth. That's coming soon. More information from the GIA, because you'll get the complete reports. We talk about all things restoration. If that's for you, visit the website and learn more about our membership. Otherwise, thanks for being with us today. I appreciate your time this weekend. This is The Rundown, and I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.